The war between America and the USSR was as heated as ever. After communist Russia put Yuri Gagarin in space for almost 2 hours, most of the world thought they would be the first to put a man on the moon as well.
John F. Kennedy, a president to be remembered. Remembered for both his achievements and his speeches, his actions and his words. One of his infamous speeches, "We chose to go to the moon," had a special place in Apollo's success story. This speech was a favorite among many, and for good reason too. This speech was not only the first the public heard of the Apollo program, but also a declaration stating that they would beat the Soviet Union, even if it's not in combat.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
One of NASA's greatest leaps was Apollo 8. Astronauts Frank Borman, James A. Lovell, and William Anders managed to be the first to orbit the moon and safely make it back. Finally, we had taken lead over Russia's space program.
Before the astronauts could launch, they had to go through months of training for everything they would do from launch to landing. NASA had chosen these men for their experience as pilots.
At last, after years of preparation, Apollo 11 was ready for launch. Millions of Americans watched as the rocket rose into the air, leaving a trail of smoke and fire.
Phase 1 liftoff was successful. Once the shuttle left the atmosphere, the shuttle made course for the moon. 3 days later, the lunar module, the Eagle, separated from the command module.
Once the Eagle touched down on the surface of the moon, Neil Armstrong climbed out of the craft and, as he stepped down, said his historic quote.
"It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
Finally, the first moon landing. While they were on the moon, they didn't just walk around. They also took many photos and samples of the moon's surface.
After spending 21 hours on the moon, they climbed back into the Eagle and blasted back into space. They then had to steer the lunar module to rendezvous with the command module. Now the astronauts could safely return to Earth.
After over a week in space, the astronauts finally returned to Earth, landing in the Pacific Ocean about 950 miles southwest of Hawaii and only 15 miles from the retrieval ship. After the astronauts were retrieved from their spaceship, they were put into quarantine for a while to make sure they didn't catch any space germs.
A couple days after the Apollo 11 astronauts were let out of quarantine, they went on a goodwill tour. On the tour, which lasted 38 days, the crew visited 29 cities and 24 countries. The tour's purpose was to tell the world that Apollo 11's success was not just for the U.S., but for everyone.
Apollo 11, proof that humans could leave the Earth and return safely. Proof that we could do the impossible. Proof that if we, as humans, put our minds to something, we can achieve it. No matter how impossible it may seem, no matter how big the leap is, we can always do it. Apollo 11 didn't just break a barrier.